Very heartbreaking news for Little People, Big World fans. Today we will reveal very secret news. Little People, Big World fans shocked. We will recount the narrative that you have yet to hear. This is the narrative of the gradual disintegration of a couple who are cherished on reality television. The divorce of Zach and Tori Roloff is the subject of this narrative. Additionally, we will introduce you to the secret companion who has been waiting in the wings, a revelation that will surprise even the most devoted admirers. This is a narrative of betrayal, of concealed resentments, and of a love that was ultimately suffocated by the very thing that made it famous, the unremitting intensity of the public eye. Therefore, fasten your seatbelt, as the following information will eternally alter your perspective on Little People, Big World. In order to comprehend the conclusion of a love narrative, it is necessary to first revisit its inception. Zach Roloff, the reserved and timid son of Matt and Amy Roloff, and Tori Patton, the outgoing and vivacious kindergarten teacher, appeared to be an unlikely pairing. The central narrative of Little People, Big World was their courtship, which commenced in 2010. We witnessed their initial date, their initial embrace, and the intimate moments that evolved into a profound and enduring love. In 2015, their nuptials was a television event that cemented their status as reality TV royalty. The day was seemingly flawless. However, even then, the foundation of their relationship is beginning to show the subtle, nearly invisible fractures that are beginning to form as you observe closely. In the public eye, a relationship is created and nurtured under a unique and immense pressure, as stated by Dr. Alana Sterling. Each milestone, disagreement, and intimate moment has the potential to serve as a narrative. In numerous respects, the love narrative of Zach and Tori was a commodity. It was packaged and marketed to an audience that desired authenticity. However, the act of filming can gradually diminish that authenticity. And as we have discovered, the erosion began much earlier than anyone had previously believed. Despite the fact that the program depicted a harmonious union, sources who are close to the couple and have requested anonymity have a different perspective. They discuss a deteriorating relationship between Zach and Tori, a rift that was concealed for the sake of the cameras. From the outset, there was a fundamental disparity in their approach to fame. Tori accepted it. She was at ease in front of the camera and comprehended the potential of their platform. Conversely, Zach appeared to be considerably more cautious and reserved. It was his family that he cherished. He harbored affection for Tori. However, he was never at ease with the performance aspect of the situation. Once an endearing illustration of the principle of opposites attract, this disparity in their personalities began to generate a subtle tension. Tori assumed the role of the family's public face due to her adept comprehension of social media and her extroverted personality. She was responsible for the development of their image. She inadvertently cast a shadow over her spouse by sharing their lives with millions of followers. How frequently did Tori assume the initiative during interviews? How frequently was her voice used to recount their family's voyage on social media? This was a natural extension of her personality, not a malevolent deed on her part. However, for a man such as Zach, who according to our sources was already grappling with the pressures of living up to the Roloff name, it was a gradual and consistent erosion of his own sense of self. Dr. Alana Sterling, a sense of partnership is essential in any relationship, as a balance of power is necessary. When one partner assumes the role of the primary spokesperson, the other may experience a sense of voicelessness as their own identity is absorbed by the more dominant personality. This dynamic is thousands of times magnified in the context of a reality program. The individual who is more at ease in the limelight influences the narrative, whether intentionally or unintentionally. Tori and the show's producers' narrative, which was curated over the years, began to deviate increasingly from the reality of their marriage. Their 3 children, Jackson, Lila, and Josiah, were born to bring them enormous pleasure. However, it also introduced unexpected obstacles. For any couple, the process of raising children is both gorgeous and challenging. However, it was also a central narrative point of their television program for Zach and Tori. The pleasures and the struggles of parenting were not merely private experiences. They were narratives that were intended to be documented, edited, and consumed by millions. Every parenting decision, milestone, and health challenge faced by the children was the subject of a discussion that not only Zach and Tori, but also a team of producers were involved in. Anonymous source, text on screen. It is an enormous burden to impose on a young family. The distinctions between their actual lives and the show became so muddled that I doubt they were even aware of the boundaries between the two. Zach was notably affected by the incessant scrutiny and the necessity of performing their family life for an audience. He had always been a more private individual, and the constant exposure of his children's lives was a source of increasing anxiety for him. Zach began to withdraw. He became increasingly reclusive, both on and off camera. He would retire to his workshop and spend hours alone. It was his method of coping, locating an area that was not being filmed or photographed. However, by retreating from the cameras, he was also inadvertently retreating from Tori. This is the point at which the Foundation's fissures began to widen, forming a chasm. Zach came to perceive their public platform as a cage, albeit a gilded cage, as opposed to a means of connecting with the world and establishing a future for their family, as Tori did. The very thing that had united them was now causing them to part ways. The seeds of a secret were sown in this growing emotional distance, a secret that would ultimately shatter the meticulously constructed image of their perfect existence. Zach Roloff was the quiet co-star of his wife's meticulously curated life for years, as well as the beautiful spouse and devoted father. However, a distinct narrative was unfolding within the confines of their residence in Battleground, Washington. It was the tale of a man who was disoriented and a woman who provided him with a place to hide from the tempest. Hannah Jensen was the identity of Zach Roloff's concealed fiancée. She is not a public figure. She is not a celebrity on reality television. According to our sources, she is a woman who entered Zach's life at a critical juncture. We have assembled the narrative of their relationship from a variety of sources, each of whom has requested anonymity due to their apprehension of retribution from the influential reality television industry. The information they have disclosed is a narrative of a covert affair that persisted for a significantly extended period than anyone could have anticipated. We were all aware that Zach was experiencing some form of distress. He was distinct. In a sense, he appeared to be lighter. When he believed that the cameras were not watching him, he would frequently use his phone, chuckling to himself. We simply presumed that he was communicating with Tori via text. However, upon reflection, it is now quite apparent. Zach met Hannah in a local community center, where he volunteered his time to coach juvenile soccer, where he could be himself and not worry about the intrusive eyes of the cameras. This is according to our sources. Hannah, a single mother, was a fellow volunteer who possessed a calm fortitude and a genuine, down-to-earth demeanor that was a world apart from the high-stakes world of reality television. Hannah was initially unaware of Zach's identity. She refrained from viewing the program. She simply perceived him as the patient and compassionate coach who was so effective with the children. That was intoxicating for Zach. It was a refreshing change to be perceived as Zach, rather than Zach Roloff from Little People Big World. He was unaware that he was being choked. Their companionship commenced with a series of intimate discussions following soccer practice, which led to a mutual comprehension of the advantages and disadvantages of parenthood. However, it soon evolved into something more for Zach. Hannah provided him with an opportunity to escape, a world in which he was not a character in a television program, but a man with his own thoughts, emotions, and desires. Dr. Alana Sterling, individuals may seek validation from sources other than their romantic partners when they perceive that their identity is being eradicated. This decision is not always made consciously. It can be a subliminal attraction to a person or a situation that enables them to feel recognized and acknowledged for their authentic selves, rather than for the role they are assuming. According to our sources, Zach was experiencing an increasing amount of difficulty in portraying the role of Tori's spouse. Zach was discreetly constructing a second life, a life with Hannah, while Tori was preoccupied with the development of their brand, the interaction with their millions of followers, and the management of their public life. The confidentiality of their relationship was of the utmost importance. They would convene in remote locations, communicate via disposable phones, and implement elaborate measures to prevent their public visibility. The high-stakes world in which Zach resided heightened the intensity of the classic tale of forbidden love. There were instances in which Zach would disappear for hours. He would claim to be running errands or visiting the hardware store, but he would be absent for half of the day. Tori was so preoccupied with the children and the show that she may not have even noticed. Or if she did not question it. She had complete faith in him. Hannah was the antithesis of Tori. She was reserved, quiet, and had no desire to be in the spotlight. She provided Zach with a secure environment in which he could be authentic. He could confide in her about his fears, his frustrations with the show, and his sense of being ensnared, and she would simply listen without any judgment or agenda. A secret of this magnitude cannot be preserved indefinitely. In the realm of reality television, where each action is meticulously examined and each word is analyzed, the truth has a tendency to emerge. For Zach and Tori Roloff, the unraveling commenced with a single, seemingly innocuous event, the conclusion of Little People, Big World. Initially, their decision to depart from the program that had influenced their lives for more than a decade was than anyone had previously believed. Despite the fact that the program depicted a harmonious union, sources who are close to the couple and have requested anonymity have a different perspective. They discuss a deteriorating relationship between Zach and Tori, a rift that was concealed for the sake of the cameras. From the outset, there was a fundamental disparity in their approach to fame. Tori accepted it. She was at ease in front of the camera and comprehended the potential of their platform. Conversely, Zach appeared to be considerably more cautious and reserved. It was his family that he cherished. He harbored affection for Tori. However, he was never at ease with the performance aspect of the situation. Once an endearing illustration of the principle of opposites attract, this disparity in their personalities began to generate a subtle tension. Tori assumed the role of the family's public face due to her adept comprehension of social media and her extroverted personality. She was responsible for the development of their image. She inadvertently cast a shadow over her spouse by sharing their lives with millions of followers. How frequently did Tori assume the initiative during interviews? How frequently was her voice used to recount their family's voyage on social media? This was a natural extension of her personality, not a malevolent deed on her part. However, for a man such as Zach, who according to our